if you want to break with these imperialist forces, it's simple. We denounce the agreements. Everything starts from there. I think the example of Chad in any case is tangible. They started by denouncing the agreements. Otherwise, if we don't denounce the agreements, just saying that the bases leave, we haven't done anything. Because the problem lies in the colonial agreements, the defenses that have been signed since independence. The most dangerous is not the one you see in the bases. The most dangerous are the military advisors.
A 36-year-old soldier just told the world that democracy is a Western trap and millions of Africans are nodding in agreement.
There are many things we can do, but I think all of this is the result of colonization. Our minds have been somewhat blocked and we've been told to consume. But no, we need to create, and you need to believe in yourselves. If we don't believe in ourselves, we can't succeed, and that's the focus of our ongoing communication. The youth must believe in themselves. Each of us must believe in ourselves, and it's possible. Today we are picking out some talents from everywhere, inventors and all. We are waiting to set up, as I mentioned last time, a center that will be like an incubator so that you do vocational training, that's true, but we're going to do practical work. And we need to create many things ourselves locally. There's no reason to pay for everything outside. We buy everything. Abroad, it's jobs we're giving away abroad. You agree with me. When you go home, you see there are many utensils, many items in the house. You wonder, but why can't we make them here? Why do we have to pay outside? It's the same with the military, where I said, well, I'm not ordering armored vehicles anymore. It's over. We manufacture. Maybe we'll succeed, maybe we won't. That's it. And that's what's happening now. It's over. What we've ordered, that's come, that's it. What's on the way, that's it. But it's over. We're not ordering anymore. We're going to manufacture locally. We shouldn't be afraid to fail. We might try and it might not work. We'll modify, we'll try, but we will succeed. That's it too. So we need to have confidence in ourselves. All the industrial units we pay for outside, you can do it. You often go to pay for industrial units and you realize it's just a conveyor belt with an electric motor that moves something, assembling small cubes. We can do it, we have welders capable of doing it, but we often don't trust ourselves, or we're just consumers. We can't pay for everything outside, no. So, vocational training.
Right now, in Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traore is doing what Kwame Nkrumah dreamed of, kicking out the French, seizing back resources, rebuilding national pride. But here's the catch, my people. He's silencing journalists, allegedly using a military rule until 2029, and he doesn't believe in democracy. So the question is that the diaspora is tearing apart. Is this Pan-African liberation or just another dictator wrapping himself in revolutionary colors? Whatever I've said is allegedly, because if we are honest, Nkrumah warned us about both dangers: foreign puppet leaders and African tyrants who betray the people. So which one is Traore? Stay with me. This is the conversation that nobody wants to have, but we must. So guys, let us go into it. Let us listen to Kwame Nkrumah's speech, and then I'll be back to discuss everything with you.
To examine our position in the great struggle to rid Africa completely and forever of imperialism and its handmaidens, colonialism and neocolonialism. Africa is rich and not poor. As the great wealth that has been taken out of our continent over 5 centuries of spoliation and extortion very well proves. Africa has immense actual and potential wealth: gold, diamond, copper, manganese, bauxite, iron ore, uranium, asbestos, chrome, cobalt, a host of other minerals. Our essential agricultural produce have all been drained away by colonialist imperialism. Africa is far from being poor. It is Africans who are poor, not Africa. And they are poor because of the uncounted profit that has been made out of the exploitation of their labor and their lands. If we are being baited to enter a European community, we must have something that community needs, and needs badly, when it pretends to offer a bonus by way of aid. When Greeks come bearing grapes, should we not look them well in the mouth? If I may mix my metaphor. But I'm sure you get my meaning. I raise this point so that it will stay in your minds when you may be tempted by the seductive promises of new colonialism to forget the real character of colonialist imperialism and be persuaded away from your own true interests and those of Africa. For today, we must each see ourselves as part of Africa in order that we may face colonialist imperialism and its new form, neo-colonialism, on a continent-wide front. This requires some plain speaking. And for the sake of Africa, let us speak plainly. As I see it, our greatest danger stems from disunity and the inability to see that the realization of our hopes and aspirations, the realization of our objective of total African independence, and of our future progress and prosperity is inextricably bound up with the necessity to unify our policy and actions in connection with the continued struggle for independence and the greater task of economic and social reconstruction beyond it. We must therefore face the issue of African unity now, for only unity will make the artificial boundaries and regional demarcations imposed by colonialism obsolete and superfluous. African unity will thus provide an effective remedy for border disputes and internecine troubles. In a united Africa, there could be no frontier claims between Ethiopia and Somalia, or between Zanzibar and Kenya, Guinea or Liberia, or between Ghana, Togoland, and the Ivory Coast. Because we would regard ourselves as one great continental family of nations. Some of the leaders, it must be confessed, do not see the struggle of their brother Africans as part of their own struggle. Even if they did, they would not be free to express their solidarity. These rifts are consciously created by the imperialists between Africans, where they can sit back and watch with sly satisfaction, as well as contempt for those who fail to see how they are being used against Africa's best interests. Regrettably, those states include some who were among the freedom fighters of yesterday and who haven't won their independence, are willing to drop it for some token aid, and thereby deny to those still struggling for freedom even their moral support. Here is a phenomenon against which all African freedom fighters must be on their guard and resist to the utmost. Even though I appreciate the difficulties facing us, I must admit, I find it strange to watch some of us returning willingly to the colonialist fold. This time, they don't even have the excuse of being forced to subject themselves to foreign domination. It makes one wonder, why so much effort and sacrifice and so many lives were given up to the achievement of independence in the first place, if it can only be so quickly and easily surrendered.
What's happening right now in Burkina Faso is not just about a young captain staging a coup. It's about a dream that refuses to die, and the nightmare of what happens when that dream gets hijacked. Now, I want you to allow me to take you back to 1963, where Kwame Nkrumah stood before the Organization of African Unity (OAU) and delivered what many call the most important Pan-African speech ever recorded. Now, in that speech, he said something that still burns, and I quote, "Africa is rich, but Africans are poor, not because we lack resources, not because we lack intelligence, but because the same powers that colonized us never actually left. They just changed the uniforms from military generals to IMF consultants, from territorial governors to multinational CEOs." And Nkrumah's prescription was radical and clear: continental unity, economic sovereignty, joint military command, and absolute rejection of neocolonial arrangements. He warned that African leaders who accept crumbs from former masters will become the grave diggers of independence itself. Fast forward 62 years later, we have Captain Ibrahim Traore, a young lad who was born in 1988, the same year Nkrumah's Ghana was struggling under military rule. Traore is a student of geology before joining Burkina Faso army. He was not just some privileged elite, and he saw his countrymen dying in the bush, fighting jihadists, while French forces sat in air-conditioned bases doing what exactly? He watched Burkina Faso bleed while foreign mining companies extracted billions in gold, leaving villages without clean water. So in September 2022, Traore did what frustrated soldiers have done throughout African history. He took power by force, and he is now Africa's youngest head of state at 36, leading the patriotic movement for safeguard and restoration. And his first moves, textbook, Nkrumah. He kicked French troops out, revised military codes. He gave Burkina Faso majority stakes in its own gold, rejected IMF conditions, invested in local food production and infrastructure. He formed the alliance of Sahel states with Mali and Niger, basically saying that ECOWAS, we are down with you. He even quoted liberation heroes in his speeches and rallied young Africans around resource sovereignty. Now, the diaspora went wild. Finally, they said an African leader with a spine, someone who is not begging at France table, someone who sees the game for what it is. But here's where the Nkrumah comparison gets complicated and uncomfortable. I want you guys to bear with me, please. I've done my own analysis, and Nkrumah believed in political unity, yes, but he also believed in popular legitimacy. He wanted African people choosing their path together, not having imposed by one strong man or military junta. And Traore, he has publicly stated that no country has ever developed under democracy. By the way, I will agree with Traore with that. Yeah. And the move that he dissolved the electoral independent commissions and placed election oversight under military control, extended transition to 2029, 7 years of military rule. I will concur with him, because you see, democracy was something that was introduced in Africa, but we as Africans living in Africa, and those of us who are the privilege of going to other countries, we know that democracy has never worked, because they bring Western agents to have an oversight of the elections in our own country, right? Okay, I need you people, the diaspora, to be honest with ourselves. Now, we are traumatized by Western manipulation that we're giving African autocrats a free pass. Now, we are also desperate for sovereignty. We are willing to trade freedom for illusion of independence. That's what some people say. And for me, I'd say that Traore repressing French dependency, him looking to the east, working with people like China, working with working with Russia, I wouldn't take that like another dependency to the east, because Traore, I guess he's a man of his own word. But when you look at Nkrumah, who won about the exact trap, he said that neocolonialism doesn't just wear one face. It adapts, it finds new entry points, it sells you sovereignty while quietly controlling your security apparatus. That's so many people are talking about it. And yes, I would, to some extent, I will agree with Traore. To some extent, I wouldn't agree with him. But Burkina Faso security situation has gotten worse under Traore, not better, because Jihadist attacks have increased, civilian casualties are rising, entire regions are under insurgent control. That the very thing he promised to fix security is deteriorating while he consolidates political power. Not because he doesn't want to, but because he gets this interference from the Western forces. All right, so we want to believe that this is our liberation moment, because we are tired of watching our resources stolen, tired of puppet presidents, tired of being told democracy means accepting Western economic domination. Yes, but I want to say this, that there are some other things that my grandfather lived in, his generation believed in Nkrumah's vision. They celebrated independence only to watch military coups, corruption, and new forms of exploitation destroy that dream. Because I believe that even corruption in Africa was brought by the West, and now my generation is watching the same cycle repeated. Revolutionary rhetoric, popular uprising, military takeover, authoritarian consolidation, and eventually it's either collapse or transformation into the very thing we fought against. But I wouldn't predict what the future of Traore, but I think there is so much to come, and we people who have seen how this guy is delivering and how he's working, we know maybe he has good plans for his country. And if Nkrumah was alive today, I don't think if he will completely praise or condemn Traore. I think maybe he will ask some of these questions, like, Captain, you've explained the French good, but have you built institutions that can outlast you? Have you created systems of accountability? Have you empowered your people to govern themselves, or just replaced one strong man with another? I guess these are the questions. Like, you will ask, you speak of sovereignty, excellent, but sovereignty for whom? That the military junta, the people, and how will those people check your power if you've silenced every independent voice? These are some of the things that I believe Nkrumah would ask Traore. But for me, as a young African, let me say something here. I am truly inspired by Ibrahim Traore. I won't lie. Ibrahim Traore has truly inspired me, because something is Nkrumah understood something that we keep forgetting. Liberation is not just who controls resources. It's about how societies are organized and how power is distributed, how citizens can hold leaders accountable without fearing midnight arrest, like what is happening in Kenya here. And here's what I believe, and it won't make everyone happy. Traore is both right and wrong. I've said it, and he's right that Western powers have rigged the economic game. He's right that ECOWAS has often served foreign interest. He's right that African dignity requires controlling our own resources. But I guess he's somewhat dangerous in believing that military dictatorship is the path to development. I guess, yeah. Every single time an African leader has made this argument, just give me unchecked power and I'll deliver prosperity, it ended in tears, and I hope it won't end in tears with him. Either the leader becomes corrupt or gets overthrown, or locks the country into conflict, or builds a personality cult that implodes when they die. And yes, I agree that China developed under authoritarianism, but China had institutions, technocratic systems, and eventually adapted. And even China's model has created massive human rights human rights problems globally, and we shouldn't ignore just because it produced economic growth. And these are the things that I want Traore to be aware of. And the reality is this, that Africa does not choose between sovereignty and democracy. We need to choose between dignity and accountability. We need leaders who understand the real power comes from empowered citizens, strong institutions, and genuine popular legitimacy, not from guns, propaganda, or foreign mercenaries. So what do we do? How do we honor Nkrumah's vision without falling into some of these traps that might appear later? First, we need to support economic sovereignty without endorsing political dictatorship. We can demand African control of resources while also demanding for free press, independent courts, and democratic accountability. Number two, I believe we need to stop giving leaders a pass just because they speak anti-Western rhetoric. And Russia and China can be just as exploitative as France and America. So Traore needs to be very careful. True sovereignty means navigating all powers from a position of strength and principle. These are my own texts, by the way. I don't know what you say. Number three, we need to invest in Pan-African institutions that empower people, not just governments. We need to support civil society, independent media, Pan-African trade networks, and the diaspora initiatives that bypass both Western exploitation and African authoritarianism. Number four, we need to study history, real history. Read Nkrumah's full speeches, not just quotes. Understand why liberation movements succeeded or failed. Learn from Burkina Faso's own Thomas Sankara, who combined revolutionary vision with popular participation before he was assassinated. And finally, that is number 5. I think we should refuse the false choice between dignity and freedom. And our ancestors didn't fight colonialism just so we could accept African leaders who might not serve our interest. African leaders who need to serve the Western interest, like things like that, And I think we should hold truth simultaneously, that Western colonialism is real, and African authoritarianism sometimes real, and that sovereignty matters, and that freedom, it matters as well. I believe Nkrumah's ghost is watching, and the question is whether we have the courage to build the Africa he dreamed of, not the one he feared. And I'd like you guys to drop your thoughts down below. Let us have the real conversation, not the comfortable one, not the tribalistic one where we defend our side no matter what. The honest one about what liberation actually requires in 2025, because Africa deserves better than choosing between puppet presidents and military strongmen. We need to be at par with everything. We deserve leaders who understand that true power flows from the people and returns to them. Guys, my name is the Bantu Merchant, and this conversation is just the beginning. I've seen a couple of people who are saying that talk about Africa. There are so many things about Africa I can talk about. So many things I can talk about the Caribbean. So many things I can talk about the African diaspora, both in US, in Europe, in Australia. I can talk about so many things because I love to talk about these things that affect my people. So if I talk about Jamaica, some social issues or economic issues surrounding social, economic, political issues surrounding Jamaica or the Caribbean countries, it's because I believe we come from the same roots, because I guess Marcus Garvey said that we should not forget the roots where we come from. And Marcus Garvey was a Jamaican, but he knew that he came from Africa. So that is why even today, as a YouTuber like me, I try to connect Africa with the Caribbean. I try to connect Africa with the African diaspora in other parts of the world. So guys, I don't want you to get me wrong or misquote me or judge me, but I want you to walk with me as I partake this journey, making sure that our continent, our identity as African people is right, and we need to defend it, and we need to be proud of who we are. For those people who always comment, those people who watch, like, and share my content, I appreciate you so much, because you are the reason as to why I wake up every day, sit here, and create these videos for you. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you in my next video. This is the Bantu Match. Don't forget about that. Keep on supporting me, guys.